Hello, my name is Omotayo Iola. Can everyone hear me? Okay, so I'm a lead software developer. Well, over the years, I have evolved from front-end developer to back-end to full stack, and currently I am taking a role of a lead engineer in a United States company, managing hordes of programmers, ranging from testers, quality assurance, the front end, and the back end. So I have over 7 years of, active experience in software development, both on web and mobile. So, and I've been opportune to, lay hands on projects in human resource, in finance, like cooperative management. In even education, I spent about 14 years in uh, one of the recognized schools in Nigeria, or our institution in Nigeria, called Yaba College of Technology. So we built applications, student applications that are based on result processing, exam docket management, the course registration, and the likes. So I'm happy to be here and to have this opportunity, taking us through React. React is a powerful, I'm from Nigeria, by the way, and React is a powerful library. It's an, some will call it framework, but it's more of a library than framework. So it's for us to actually go do well in React, we need to have an understanding of JavaScript, and which is the base programming and language. And also, we will be going through it's going to be about 2 stages thereabout. The first stage will be a brief introduction to React, as it were, and also we are going to lay hands on practical. And I have chosen to teach invoice generator, and I hope that the time we have will be enough for us to complete the project. All right, I will proceed to share my screen. I have a number of slides here, and I also want us to, I want this to be a dialogue, a two-way communication. So I don't want to be the only one talking. So uh, I I might be calling us one, sometimes to uh, to react or to give a response. So please let's be on the alert. So I want to share my screen, and once I share my screen, I'll be asking us if we are able to see the screen. I'll share my entire screen to show us um, the slides. So I'll go ahead now, share. Okay. Please, I want to be sure if we can all see the screen. Please, I need a voice, to confirm that you can see the screen. I need an audio response. All right. So the Microsoft Team app has been minimized. So, and I want to really focus on the slide. So, in this short training, we are going to be learning how to build an invoice, a simple invoice generator using React, which is a powerful user interface tool. And for record purpose, React is owned by Facebook and is used to build, multi-million dollars applications. So what it means is that if we are familiar with React, then we have unlimited power to build multi-million dollar applications. And we can also leverage on the features of React to achieve our goal, to achieve scalability, and also ensure that our codes are maintainable and are of good quality. So React offers a number of features that will help us to scale even into thousands of users without stressing the application as it were. So as we keep up with on the training, I'll be mentioning one or two things just from experience, just for us to be sure that React can do a lot, outside of just building a simple application. But great things, they say, start small, and everything works together. So we have to build from the scratch and ensure that we have a functional app. So once again, my name is Omotayo Yola, and objective of this training, number one, we have an introduction to React. I've mentioned, one or two things about React. So we also have an understanding of the project structure. We are going to be downloading the React template for us to create React app. And we are also going to build the invoice generator form. And invoice generator will entail calculation. That means you want to add items. Probably you buy a refrigerator, two units of refrigerator, and each one costs, let's say, $1,000. So the app is meant to automatically calculate the total amount spent on each item. And at the end of the day, we have a sum total of all that has been spent. And so we also look into navigation between pages, even though for the sake of the basic nature of the tutorial, we might not be navigating from one component to another, but we are going to have an idea of how it works. Also, we are going to have a preview of the invoice that has been generated and probably a print functionality. All right. Number 7, we're going to have styling. For styling, I do not want to complicate issues because I think we need to start, when we say basics, we need to start from CSS. So there are other ways you can style in React. You can make use of third-party package like Tailwind. You can make use of SCSS, and the likes. So, but for the sake of simplicity and building from the scratch, we are going to make use of CSS cascading style sheets that I believe we already have an idea of what that does, with HTML. Yeah, there's something called JSX in React that allows us to use HTML codes in React. So for those of us that have a good background in HTML, we can as well be sure that we can hit the ground running with React. So the JSX allows us to run HTML code inside of JavaScript. We already are aware that React is a product of JavaScript, is a library, that's offshoot from JavaScript, and most of the syntax we are going to be using will be based on JavaScript. So let me not waste time. What is React? I've mentioned earlier that React is a JavaScript library. It's used for building user interfaces. React allows developers to build single-page applications with a component-based architecture. All right, in this training, we are building a single-page application, and it will be based on components. And why is React so popular? It allows us to reuse components. When you have the ability to reuse components, what it means is that you don't have a verbose code base. Your code base will be very small, and your application will be doing very greatly in terms of scaling. So we can have components that can be reused on any page as much as we want it. So that is an advantage, an edge that React has over some other frameworks out there. So React also simplifies the process of creating interactive user interface by efficiently updating and rendering only the components that change. In the course of the training, we are going to talk about use states. Now, one of the issues we have with the traditional HTML web page is that when you are navigating from one page to another, there has to be a form of reload. You have to reload you cannot really enjoy the UX, that the user experience. But with React, we can actually enjoy so many things just on a single page without having so much stress on the system memory or on the browser. So we are going to achieve that, this training. So let me quickly move to why we use React. I mentioned earlier that it's a component-based architecture, and the codes there can be reused. And when you have a reusable code, then you have a maintainable code too. When you need to maintain a code that is used on many pages, you know what that means. You are not spending so much time on so many components. So the next thing is the fact that React is declarative. React allows you to describe the UI for each state of the app. So when the state changes, React automatically updates the user interface. We are going to use states in order to understand all of this. Then the virtual DOM, the traditional web page allows the use of the real DOM. And the real DOM is a document object model. You have to re-render. I mentioned something about HTML. We are moving from one page to another. There has to be a lot of re-rendering. But if you use React, you are going to make use of virtual DOM, which only allows a specific update. So React uses the virtual DOM to efficiently update and render UI changes. So you don't necessarily need to reload all the page. If there is a change on a particular portion of the web page, React will handle it separately, and there won't be reason for reload. Then number 4, it's fast and it has interactive UI. So React is efficient. It efficiently updates. When there is an update, it's within seconds or milliseconds, you see that the update has been shown without a page reload. Let's move to TypeScript. TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. They call it JavaScript annotator. It's just very good that we have an idea, because we're going to use TypeScript also in this project. We have an idea of how it works. Basically, TypeScript helps us to capture errors or bugs earlier. Instead of waiting for us to deploy our application and now have an issue in the production settings or platform, while you are developing as a developer, when you use TypeScript, it helps you to actually get all those bugs earlier and resolve them at runtime, not at compilation time, so that when you compile, you are sure that your app does not have a bug. So, and what actually how does that TypeScript actually work? Most of the time, when we write our codes, we cannot do without variables, cannot do without constant variables. Also, we probably work with data structure. When we talk about objects, arrays, and they all come in types. We have numbers, we have integers, we have a string, and we have lists, or probably they call it array. So TypeScript will help us to ensure that all those variables are statically typed. So if I'm supposed to provide age, which is a number, as 25, if anybody types TWENTY, you know that that's an error. It's expecting a number or an integer. If I'm working on money, I probably need to declare a float where I can enter a number with decimal points, like $11.22. All of these are to help the application work smoothly. And that's why we are going to make use of TypeScript in this project. And it will be in the basic form, so that we can maximize the limited time that we have. So let me just run through. It helps us to catch type-related records. Like a type of string is not expecting a number, a type of object is not expecting an array, and the like. So TypeScript can be seamlessly integrated to enhance the development experience. It's allows us to type, and allows for auto completion and type checking. And TypeScript is particularly used in large applications, but we are going to use it in a small application so that we can build from ground up. All right, so let me quickly move because this should not take us. I have like 7 minutes to complete this part of the training so that we can deeply move into practical. So in this invoice generator app development, we are going to use useState hook. Yeah, I don't want to go so deep into hook, but before now, we used to have class components. When you develop applications using React, you use class components, and there is something called lifecycle, React lifecycle. So I don't want to bore us with those stories, but now we are using functional components, which is a bit more flexible than class components and easy to use, easy to learn. So the drawback is that class component uses embedded states. That means class component is stateful. So when there are changes in the DOM, in the web page, the class component handles it without requesting for any package externally. But when we now start using functional components, and it looks very, very seamless to use, there was an issue. And the issue is that functional components are stateless, meaning that when state changes, it will not reflect. So that is why we now have to, over the years, Facebook came up with the concept of hook. So with hook, function component can do what the class component can actually do. So, and in this case, we have so many hooks in React. We have the useState, useEffect, useMemo, useCallback, and a number of hooks, useRef. So, but because it's a basic training, let's just stick to useState, because all we want to achieve is that once we enter our form, once we enter, fill up the form for each of the item we are putting together for the invoice, the page should not reload. The state of that component should be handled within itself. So React will re-render the component whenever the state changes. And when there's a re-render, you don't even see it because it works very fast. So I'll quickly move. This is how we can use state. Of course, this is just an example. Now we have a syntax that says useState. So useState is the hook that has been taken from React. It comes with React. And also useState, we have an initial value, which is probably 0 or null or something. And once there is an interaction with the web page and the state has to change, then that's when we now have to set the new value for that particular variable or parameter. So initially is the default, which is always like an empty array, empty object, a null, or 0 if we are working with time. I mean with numbers. So we have the initial state, and we have to use the setState function to ensure that the new value of React has been effected. So I don't know, are you with me? Is there any area that you need me to talk about? Please let me know. I need a feedback from you. Are you with me? So can I hear a feedback? I think I cannot hear from anyone.
Yes, we are with you.
All right, please, I need your feedback so that I'll be sure that carrying everyone along. So is there any question so far, or can I continue? Because I'm going to be asking questions in the next couple of minutes, just to be sure that we are all together. So I have a little quiz here, and I want to, once you know the answer, just unmute and tell me the correct answer. So I start with the first one. It says, what is React primarily used for? So we have building mobile applications, building user interface, managing databases, writing server-side logic. So can someone help me with the answer? So I need an answer to this. Number one. Can someone help me with an answer? Please, we need to save our time so that I can go into practical. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Motoya.
Yes.
Kindly look at the chat. They are answering the questions in the chat.
Okay. I actually,
Yes.
okay, please let me maximize it now. Sorry, I maximized the whole screen. Oh, thank you very much for the feedback. So for the first, probably let me just drag this to my second screen so that I'll be able to manage the two screens together. So thank you for your response. Oh, I'm so sorry I didn't check the chat. So for the first question, we have A and B. Yeah, it cannot be A and B. We only have one answer for all the quiz. So we have to stick to one. So some of us chose B, some A. Yeah, so it has been between A, B, and C. But I would say that if you chose A, you are wrong, because React is not used to build mobile application. You can, if you remember, I've been emphasizing on web. I mentioned something about DOM, that's document object model. So it can be A. So B, yeah, it looks like the answer. Building user interfaces. Yeah, I mentioned that, frequently, and I think that is the answer. So please, let's stick to one answer. So let's go to number two. I'll be expecting us to drop our answers. What type of architecture does React use? Monolithic architecture, layered architecture, component-based architecture, and client-server architecture. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So C is correct. We mentioned component. When you say React, what should come to your mind is user interface, component based, because React, the beauty of React is from the reusability, ability to reuse components. So that is it. So let's move to number three. How does React simplify component-based architecture? Thank you, Ruben. And Solomon and David, I appreciate your answers, feedback. Number three, how does React simplify the process of building interactive user interfaces? Okay, by using single page for the entire app, by updating only the component that change, by manipulating the DOM directly, by using external libraries. So what are the answers are coming in? Hilary, you said by using a single page for entire app. Okay, I need more answers. I have not got the answer. Yeah, Israel, B. So one more person, then I move on. B, okay, nobody's selecting C. Do I have a C? Okay, A. And last person. Yeah, so we have B. So I'll gladly tell you that the answer, it's a technical question. So if you don't read in between the lines, you will be attracted to A. And the answer is actually B. So updating only the components that change. So updating only the component that change. Of course, React can be used to build a single page application, but it is not restricted to single page application. That's why we have routing in React. So the routing allows you the routing packages allows you to build multi-web pages in React. So the answer is B. Let's move to 4. What is one of the main benefits of React components-based architecture? All right. Let's get the answers. One of the main benefits, I've mentioned something very frequently, and I'm sure if you see that word, you should be sure of the answer. Okay, yeah. Thank you. The answer is B. Yeah, reusability. Once you, if anybody wakes you up, say, what about React? The first thing I expect you to say is, of course, React is declarable. It's a component-based architecture, and it's reusable. And once you can reuse a component, then it's maintainable because you are only maintaining from one source. You don't have to, if it's not reusable, it means that you need to have so many components. Even if they are doing the same thing, you must build so many components. But that means if you are building a very big app and you have that component doing the same thing, 50 components doing the same thing, you have to now make changes on each of the 50 components, which is not maintainable. So, but reusability of React makes it maintainable. So let's move to okay, we should go to number 5 now, I believe. So 5, what does the virtual DOM do in React? So I'll make it 1 minute now so that we can maximize the time and go into practical. So number 5, can we have answers to number 5 or answer to number 5? What does the virtual DOM do in React? Good, Hilary, you chose C. Let me have 2 more. C, great. C, yeah, so that's the answer. C is the answer. The fact that React does not necessarily force your web pages to change, it really makes a lot of sense. And we are actually going to have a feel of that in the invoice generator app development. So number 6, which of the following is true about React's declarative UI? So can we get the answers in? Okay, I can see B. All right. So, oh, that's great. B. So this time around, no conflicting answer. So I'm waiting for Nofanello. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. So the answer is B. It allows us to, it makes updates, it automatically update the user interface. So let's go to number 7. We are going to 10 actually. So number 7 is on TypeScript. What is TypeScript? So I'm expecting the answers. Okay, I've seen B. Oh, great. B. Yeah, you guys, you are really doing greatly. It shows that you have been attentive. So TypeScript is like a mother, if you can remember, for those of you that have a mathematics background, when you use your Venn diagram, you have an intersection, you have union, and the rest. So a bigger picture is like talking about South Africa and Africa, as it were. Africa is big, and South Africa is also a country in the continent. So we can say that Africa is a superset of South Africa, because South Africa is a subset of Africa, just like Nigeria, Liberia, Ghana, and the rest. You are subset. So the bigger one is the superset. So once you remember TypeScript, what is TypeScript? TypeScript is a bigger picture. That's a superset of JavaScript. So it's trying. So let's move to 8 because of our time. I'm just hopeful that we don't spend so much time on this segment. So how does TypeScript help in development? Can we give our answers? The main essence of TypeScript, yeah, TypeScript is a superset, is a JavaScript annotator, and the rest. Why? What does it do in the development? Yeah. So I can see B. Are you sure you're right with B? Can I have someone else with another answer? Maybe it's not right. Maybe B is correct. Yeah. Okay, I'm waiting. Is B actually the okay, Luisa? Luisa, yeah. Sorry, I may not pronounce your name clearly. Yeah, Luisa said A. That's good. I like diversity. Yeah. So we have A, we have B, though we have majority B, but does the majority carry the votes? Let's now find out. So TypeScript, as I mentioned, it helps us to maintain a bug-free code, a bug-free code base. What it means is that instead of allowing the noise to go into production at the early stage, that's the development stage, you curb that error, you curb that bug at the runtime. Not even the bug cannot even go into compilation. So by someone said by making code more readable without any type checking. No, that's A. Luisa, you didn't get it correctly. So it's a TypeScript about typing the variables. So you said by catching type-related errors during development and enhancing code readability. Exactly. So B is the answer. I just wanted to confuse you so that I'll be able to convince you. That's why I said I needed more options. So actually, TypeScript is about catching errors in the juvenile state at the beginning stage, so that such error does not move into production. So B is the answer. So let's go to the last two questions. So what does useStateHook do in React? So what does useStateHook do in React? I've mentioned useState. I mentioned component changing. I mentioned the difference between class components and function components. I mentioned that function components is more usable, is more friendly to use than class. But one issue it had initially was that it couldn't manage state. So that's, and moving forward, we're able to now have hook. So with hook, function components has been able to do like what the class component will do. So the hook has made the function component to move from being stateless to being stateful. Okay, so can I get an answer? Okay. So please, I'm not seeing answers yet. You can attach 9. Probably you've dropped the answers. I didn't. So you can just say 9, then the right answer. So I'll be sure I'm not mixing up with the previous answers. All right. Can see A. Yeah, manage the states, manages global states across all components. So any other answers? Okay, we have B, used to add state to functional components. All right. I also have B again. So it's used to add state to functional components. So nobody is speaking C. It's used to manage routing. No. State is not about routing. D, it allows handling asynchronous operation. No. State is not promise, where you use try and catch or something. So the answer is between A and B. But there's something about state. State is not global. So state is used to manage a component. So each component will have its own states. So you can't use states in a global form. Yeah, we need to understand that. So each component will use its own states. Another component will use its own state. So we don't use states across components. So that means that our answer is B. It is used to add states to functional components. All right, let's go to number 10 and we'll be able to move to practical. So far, how has it been? I want the feedback, 1 or 2 feedbacks. Have I been too fast or too slow, or because we are moving into the real practical. So I need your feedback. So number 10, in the use state hook, what does test state do? Yeah, time manage well, thank you. Please, if there's something I need to do better in order to get this across, in a more efficient way, please, I'm open to suggestions. So number 10, we have B, we have D, okay? Let me just see what is in B and what's in D. So B, it says it initializes the state value. The other time I mentioned use state and the bracket. Let's go back to, okay, B. So when you talk about initializing the state value, if you want to initialize state value, you actually use the use state. That's where we have the use state. So this is the aspect that initializes the state value, okay? So meaning that you are wrong if you select A. Then let's go to B. B, it updates the state value. So go back to this. B seems to be the answer, but let's confirm. So we can see set state. Set state is the function that actually updates the state value. I mentioned that the initial value comes with the component, and once there's a change in value, then the initial value changes to the current state, and this is the function that we use to actually change the value. We are going to make use of this in the practical, so no need to worry. All of this will make sense by the time we start practical. So so far, do we have any question before we transit to practical? Any questions so far? If there is none, you can type no or none. If there is any, you can type the question and I will go through it. No questions, okay. Okay, all right, because I'll be a little bit faster, probably much faster in the practical, because I would not want to repeat what has been said, and also I also want to bridge the gap in terms of managing the time. I have only 1 hour 45 minutes. So let's get our VS Code running. I believe we are all with our system. So the first thing we want to do is to install or create a React app. Okay, you are not with your, okay, no means none or nil, okay. So let me know if you are with your system and you have VS Code on it. Can you just say yes? Can you just type yes? Oh, great. All right. I think a good number of us have our system and we have VS Code running on it. Of course, VS Code is not the only IDE that's integrated development environment. Some use Atom, some use Sublime, but VS Code has become a bit powerful over the years with the fact that you can add some plugins and you can have some accesses that you probably need a third-party app to run to gain that access, but you can have it in more like it's one all in one package. So now I want you to first and foremost, let's go to our terminal. I'm using Mac here. I don't know if some of us are using Windows, but that does not really matter. We will definitely get things done. So first thing is that I've chosen the desktop. I've chosen the desktop directory to create to create the project. So you can also choose a directory where you create the project. Now, over here, how do we create a React app? Now, Vite is very recent. Initially, we used to have create React app. Create React app command. You say create React app, and you have your React app template downloaded. Yeah, but it's been known that Vite has given a faster development experience than Create React app. So I've used Create React app some years back, and recently in my project I've been using Vite. So I would advise that we should write in this command inside of the directory where you want to have the project downloaded. So I'll do that on my desktop and say npm create vite at latest. Now you need this at latest because it will give you the latest template. And you know, when you say latest, it means that it will come with recent features that you need in your React. So we need a starter template, even though at the end of the day, we're going to wipe off all the content so that we can start from scratch. So what's the name of our package? We call it invoice generator. So let me call it Rita invoice generator. So I want to make it very unique. So you can give it any name, doesn't matter, but ensure that you have invoice generator, and I believe you are on the internet. So when you have enter, click on the enter button. So you have options here. We have the vanilla, we have the Vue, React, Preact, and the rest, but we are going for React. So select React and click the enter button. And we have the TypeScript, we have the type plus SWC and the rest. So this training is like 2-in-1. Yeah, I want us to implement TypeScript. So normally I should have just said we should go to JavaScript, but since we already have an idea of how TypeScript work, it's not going to be very difficult for you to use. So I'll make sure that every one of us have an idea of how it works practically. So click on TypeScript. All right. So when you do that, automatically you already have the project created. Now you still need to do something. You need to change your directory into the project. Of course, we are coming back to VS Code, but at this point, we want to prepare our template well. So what do you do? From here, you already have the procedure. So inside of my desktop, when I do ls, for those of you that understand Linux, you know that ls is used to get the directory inside of the folders inside of the directory. So with the ls now, you can see I have all of these projects, Rita invoice generator folder here. These are other things I have in my directory. So I'll just do a cd, which is change directory to what? To Rita invoice. I can even use the tab button to do the autocomplete and click on return. So currently you can see that I'm inside of the Rita invoice generator. Now, the next thing I want to do is to run npm install. And the reason is that we have downloaded a template. Those templates, the template has not come with the packages, the package installation. So we need to actually install the package. So that's why we have npm install. So we're going to see all of the packages after this. So when you do npm install, I'm supposed to make it install. So npm install, we install all the drivers, I call it drivers, all the packages and dependencies needed in that template. So let's give it a little while. This will depend on, okay, I have an error here because that directory is protected. So you might not have the same experience. So what I will just do is to type in sudo. Sudo means that I am the root user of this system. So enforce the installation. So I'm not sure if you are having that error, but it's not likely that everybody has this error. So once you see it, you need to type in sudo if you are using Mac, and to be sure that you are the real. So I need to type in my password, and let's see if we are going to have the error once again. All right, so you can see that we have this successfully done. And having this successfully done, I can easily go to my IDE, that's the VS Code, and let me be sure, are we on the same page? If you're on the same page with me, please just say yes. As refused, why? Is there an error message? Mine also refused, but I have to enforce it with sudo. It says not recognized, so please be sure that you are typing the right now npm install. This is what you are going to type. The other time I didn't add the S, so it's supposed to be install. So do npm install, but be sure that you are in the project directory. First, you have to do cd into the directory. Yeah, when I installed using terminal. I installed it using a terminal. So I probably, for Windows user, you can use a command cmd. You can run the command on cmd. Yeah. Louisa, are you using Windows or Mac? Okay, yeah, on your Windows, there is this run, there's this CMD or run package. So when you type in run on the, it's been a while that I use Windows. No. Using Windows does not make this unworkable, unusable. So please, it's not about Windows. So ensure you, oh, good. So that run, that command or CMD, type in CMD, you are going to get that particular black background command line, prompt. So type in inside of the, be sure of where you are, you understand, be sure of the directory you are in before you type in the npm create bytes at latest. So let me be sure that we are all on the same page. Yeah, command prompt. So be sure of the directory you are in on the terminal so that you'll be able to locate the folder at the end of this. So just type in the npm create bytes at latest. npm. Okay, so if you don't have npm installed, you could be having issues. You could be having issues. Do you have npm installed on the system? If you don't, let me just check if I can search for that. Okay. So let me send you a link. So you need npm to be installed on your system. I think sorry, you can search for npm, npm, or yeah. You can download Node. Use that link. So I want to see if I can get a direct. This is a link you can follow to download Node.js and on your Windows, and also, of course, the download page will help. Please let me know if you have completed the download. Okay, I sent that one earlier. So Node.js, React cannot work without Node, and because Node is the JavaScript engine that allows us to run, of course, the server aspect of JavaScript. JavaScript has long been known to be a front-end solution, a front-end scripting language. But with Node.js, we are able to create servers. We're able to take JavaScript from just a mere front end, user interactive interface into a server-based programming language. So please, I'll wait. So you are downloading Node. So when you download Node for Windows, when you download Node, you install it. And once you install it, okay. I think there's a way you want to check on your on your terminal if the installation has been successful. So let's try, is it npm, maybe Node V or something. Can you try to type that on your terminal and see if it's going to give you results? Okay, I think it's single Node -v. So what do you have after you type this in your successfully installed? Great. All right, so I can let me know if we are all on the same page so that we can continue with the practical. So Tony, are you on the same page with us? Israel, Louisa? Are we all on the same page? So David, you can try to run this now. Try and run this. So you should be able to download a React template with that. Israel? Yeah, Leon, were you able to? Okay, after you install the npm, please run this on your command line. And once you successfully run it, please let me know that you have successfully. All good, thank you. Yeah, yes, I just need to know which framework to choose. Yeah, you are choosing React framework. Yeah, you're choosing React and and TypeScript. Yeah. So you are choosing React, then TypeScript. So TypeScript is the first option. After you select React and you click on the enter button, the first option is TypeScript. So select it and so let me know if we're all good. Okay, go ahead, please. Luisa, thank you. Okay, you can't unmute. I think the tech support will help with that. So we have just 2 minutes to be on the same page so that we can maximize the time. I can make available the code after the training, with the support of the tech support, we can actually make available the code. So I think what's more important is for you to understand how it works. So in order to save time, I can make the code available on a GitHub after the training. So please type what you have in mind, Tony. So I want us to agree that we should continue. And like I promised, the code will be made available so that we can maximize the remaining time. So I would rather even want you to understand the procedure. So Solomon Okoye, yeah, you've run the npm install, fine. Have you been able to run to create the Vite app? So I think I have about 2, 3 of us on the same line. Israel has not been sending message. And so, okay, Louisa is done. Yeah, Tony. All right. So I want you to type go ahead. So let's have an idea. Let's all agree that even if some of us are still having issues, those issues can be resolved later so that we can move forward. We can continue. All right. So don't worry, the code will be made available. I'll be, I'm sure the admin is also with us. So yeah, I'll share your screen for help. I think we can attend to that. We still have a long way to go. So please let's just move forward for now so that we'll be able to beat the time and also understand how it works. The variant of React, that's TypeScript. That's the first option on that list. TypeScript. So I'm running out of time. Can I move on? If you want me to move on, send a thumbs up. Send a thumbs up. I just need 3. Okay. Okay, I can see. Yeah. Tony. Leon. Israel. All right. Thank you for your feedback. It really goes a long way. So now we've been able to install the templates. So let me now go ahead. Okay, the last one is let's go coding. Okay, so let's go coding. All right. So I'll proceed to my. Yeah, thank you for the thumbs up. So I want to do something now. This is my VS Code. I want to access that particular template, the folder or the directory where we have the, yeah, thank you. So the directory where we have the projects. Remember, in my own case, I installed on the desktop. And the reason why I did that is because the desktop, I can easily access the folder. So you can actually install on any directory. So let's go. I have to minimize this a bit so that we can simultaneously have access to the web page. So on your VS Code, you can go to the top left under file, click on open folder. So we want to reach the folder that we just created. Excuse me. So click on open folder, and I installed mine on on desktop. So desktop, and you can see that it's the first folder here. So I select the folder. I don't need to select the files. I just select the folder and click on open. And there we go. We have the directories, we have the files and the rest. If you are there, just send a thumbs up and we move from here. So if you are not there, don't worry. You are going to get, thank you, Hilary. So let me quickly, briefly, in 2 minutes, explain all of this. So briefly, we have this Vite. Remember, we use the Vite app. We downloaded the React template using the Vite. So that's why we have this Vite configuration file. This is TypeScript configuration file. All of these, they are not, they are very important. The TypeScript JSON file too, talks about the part where we have the TypeScript and all of this. This is the README that if we are pushing to Git, okay, this is a kind of default message. Package.json, the other time when we downloaded, we have all these packages, that came with the download, excuse me, with the downloading, but we needed to install. So that's why we had to do npm install. So, and after the npm install, we have this node script. So this is actually where we have all this, the installation, the driver or the package, all these packages. This is the drivers are saved inside of the node module. All right, so let me not jump. So we have the package log.json. It comes with, it almost resembles package.json, but it's more verbose. It has a lot of things related to what we have in node modules, but we shouldn't bother ourselves with package log. This is where we should bother ourselves on. So, and over here, to save time, I think one of the things we need is this dev. Yeah, by the time we are running the script, we want to run it in a development environment. We have to say npm run dev. So that's why we have this dev here. So if we are building it, we'll say npm run build. Yeah, but we are not going to production yet. So that's why we have this package. We have the package name and all of this version and the rest. So we have this index.html. This is default. Well, it's connecting to the main TypeScript file. So the ESLint helps us to check on all the text we put inside of our code to be sure that they are all properly arranged and there are no errors. The git ignore, if we are actually sending to Git, we don't want some things to go with Git. So like the node modules is so bulky that we don't want to push them to Git. So, and here we go, we have the source folder. This is where we are going to be dwelling, 90% of our time. We'll be dwelling inside of the source folder. And inside of the source folder, we have the vite.env, we have the main.ts. So this is where we have the root of the project. That's the main.ts. We have the index.css. These are the default styling that came with it. We have the app.css. This is actually our test bed. This is where we are going to write our codes. And the app.css, these are the CSS that comes with it. We are going to get rid of all of this CSS. We're going to build from the scratch. And inside of the assets, if we probably have a logo or anything we want to add, we keep them inside of the assets, images or thereabouts. So that's a brief overview of the folder directory. And this is where we are coming to. So let's run this project. Remember, package.json under script, we have the dev. So it shows that we are going to use dev to run it. So you can click on your terminal, click on the terminal, and click on new terminal. So when you click on new terminal, it gives you access to the terminal here. Okay, sorry, I need to add again. I have some third-party plugins, so I will make this training as simple as possible. So how do you run your project? You have npm run dev. Just be sure that you are in the project directory. Be sure. So when you do npm run dev, and okay, now I'm getting errors because of the permission issue. So once I add sudo, once I add sudo to npm run dev, it recognizes me as the real owner of the system and the real administrator. So you might not be having the issue. Sorry, for Mac, there are a lot of security concerns that needs to be addressed. So, but simply when you type in npm run dev, it's going to open up the development, and I need to put my password. And so if that is successful, it's going to generate for you a server address. You can copy and paste into your server, into your browser. Oh, great. So you can see that I've been able to run this project successfully. And this is the template that came with it. So let me know if you are on the same page with me. If you're on the same page, you can say yes. Okay, no. So, okay, I have a yes from Hillary. So, Tony, any issues? So, okay, so this is the template that came with, this is a default template. So we are not under any jurisdiction to use this template. npm run dev. npm run dev. So npm run dev. Yeah, npm run dev. So, and the reason why it is dev, I mentioned that it's because on our package.json, if you want to run the development environment, you're actually going to do npm run dev. If it's going to be the production environment or you want to build, you do npm run build. So I need one or two of us to confirm that it's working so that we can move forward. We have just 45 minutes and we have a long way to go. So, but my joy is that, you know, a good number of you, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have an idea of HTML. So with that, I will not spend so much time, explaining HTML. We are just going to use our JSX to run our HTML inside of JavaScript. All right. So so I'll find a way of, if I can just make this show half of the screen so that all our changes will be visible. So let me see if I can find a way around that. Okay, so let me see how much I can achieve with this. Okay, so can you see both screens? We have this screen here. We have the app.js. Okay, so what we want to do now is to clean this, make this a clean sheet so that we can start from the scratch. How do we do that? Over here, we have the, these are dependencies, like we have use states from React. We have React logo, we have Vite logo, but we are not actually going to use majority of this. We're not going to use the React logo. We're not going to use Vite logo. Then the use state, I mentioned it. Remember, when you click on these counts, if you still have your, when you click on count, you can see that it's increasing. It's increasing when you click on it, 6, 7, 8. When you click, it increases. So why is it increasing, and how did it increase without reloading the page? Thanks to what? To use state. So use state allows this to increase. If you were to do this on a normal HTML web page, the page will reload and give you the next one. When you click on this, it will reload and give you 14. Click on it, reload and give you 15. But that is not efficient. It's taking a lot in terms of your data. But React will only update a portion of that web page that is changing. So all thanks to what? To use states. So, but let's get rid of this. How do I get rid of this? I will come here and delete everything from 11 down to 30. Okay, from 11 down to 30, let's delete. So let's have only return. So yeah, you're going to have these errors, but don't worry. Even all these two, you are also going to delete the React logo importing and the Vite logo. You are going to have that. So, and you can type in div. So this we also need to remove. So, and let's just have a kind of H1, welcome to React. Let's use the traditional hello world. Hello world. All right, and save. So we should see the changes immediately. How do I get rid of this? So can we all see this hello world? So if you have the hello world displayed, yeah, and you can see it also, you can send a yes. So this is the starting point. All right, so good. So another thing is that we need to go to this app.css because we are using a clean sheet, right? So let's go to app.css and remove everything. Let's just leave the logo, blah, 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 blah. Let's remove everything, I think. Remove everything in app.css and also go to index.css and remove everything. So I'm sure you can all see that I remove all the styling. The reason is because I want to ensure that we start from a clean slate and from the basics. So all right, so this error is normal because we imported a dependency, or we imported a function that we have not used. So that's why it's throwing this error, but don't you worry, we are going to use it. So are we good to go? Just send me a yes, then I'll send a thumbs up so that we can move forward. I need one thumbs up, then we move. All right, thank you, Larry. Okay, so the first thing, let me just show us what we want to develop. We can all see this. This is the invoice generator. Yeah, it can look better in terms of styling, but this is what we have for now. So the invoice generator has a title here, invoice generator. We have a form here where you type in the company name, My Company Limited. We have the company address. You can say it's number 2, Livingstone Street off Area Junction. Let's say South Africa. Awesome. So this is the company you are sending an invoice to. So you probably want them to pay for two items. The first item is a freezer. And how much is the freezer? The freezer is $100. And how many freezers were bought? Probably have 20 freezers. So 20 freezers for $100 will give us what? $2,000. So, and we probably want to add another item. Let's add what someone should suggest, please. Suggest an item and the price. And suggest an item we want to write an invoice for. Okay. Let me add football. Okay, Solomon is helping out. Okay, TV sets, thank you. TV sets. We can add a what's this recent one? Smart TV. Smart TV. How much is smart TV? Let's say it's $350 per one, and we are buying 10. that should be 35,000. I mean, that should be 3,500. So by the time you add the two, you have the total of 5,500. And now we want to generate the invoice. Click on print view, and you can see this already looks like an invoice. Yeah, so the company name, the company address, and the item bought, and we have the total. And when you click on print invoice, it actually shows something like this. You can send to your printer and also, save it as PDF. So the reason why I chose this project is because you can, I've seen an invoice generator app online that are making a lot of money, and they made it free of charge. The invoice generator app is free. You can go there and generate your invoice. So they probably make use of Google AdSense. So it's easy, it's free, it's easy to use. So the Google AdSense from there, I think that's where they get their money. So meaning that the market is even there. So you can start as an entrepreneur with an invoice generator, with a utility app that people will like to use. And now, you are taking it to the next level, from software development to the entrepreneurship aspect of it. So, but let's get this done. Starting from the scratch, we have the Hello World, and the first thing we want to do is probably get this heading and the form here. So let's start with that. So in that case, we're going to remove. Of course, we can retain this, and instead of having Hello World, we can have it as an invoice generator. And yeah, there we go. We can see it as change invoice generator. Then the next thing we want to do is to create a form. And what form are we creating? We want to create a form that will take the company name and the company address. We are all used to HTML, and when you are creating form in HTML, you'll say form, and inside of the form we have input. Yeah, input. This is an input type, and the input type here is text, right? So form input type. Input type is text, and over here we have placeholder. Of course, suggestion. So we're going to have a placeholder, and what's the placeholder? Placeholder will be enter company name, and of course every form has a value, right? So, but we are coming back to the value. So and we're also going to add some other things to it as time goes on. So we can duplicate that, or let's create the next one, which takes the address. So we have it as input also. Input type is the type is expecting is text, and we have a placeholder that says enter company address, right? All right, and let's make it stop at that point. All right, so this is just basic. It's like a simple HTML, and then we can style it later. So let's check what we have. So I think I have a barrier here. Okay. Let me drag down the folder a bit. All right. So you can see over here that we have the form. We have the form here, though it's not well styled. All of those things, we're going to come back to them. Let's have the skeleton first. So, and after that, we have another form. And well, do I call it form? It looks like a form because it also takes an input. Over here, we have all this, which will duplicate as time goes on. So let's create, so for the form here, I think we need to create a div around that form. And the reason why we have to create a div is because we're adding some other things. Well, let's go ahead first. Let's go ahead. We have the form. We have a div around the form here. I would say that we should go do the styling. I'm just trying to see how we can. So you put that form inside of a div. So we address the styling all together. Put inside of a div, and the div will come with a particular styling. So for the form, I think we need to create a class name and call it form. Now, when you use class name in React, what you're actually doing is that you are creating a CSS class that we use to style that particular form. So for this div too, we are creating a CSS class so that it will look like what we actually want. And the class name for this will be what? Will be input. No, will be company details. Let's just call it company details. We are going to create those styles later. So company details. So how do we style the company details? We're going to know as time goes on. So even for the input, we will not style the input. We will not style the input yet. So, and after this, inside of the same form, you remember all of this is a form. All of this together, they are all in one form. So let's add the items here and add this form. So how do we go about that? Let's just say that would be H2. We're not going to use H1. That's H2. And inside of the H2, we have the items, just like we have in the completed stuff. So inside of the items, we have the form. We have about 3 inputs here. The first one is the item name. The second one is the price. And the last one is the quantity. All right, so let's have those inputs. So inside of the form, we have the items and we have the input type. Yeah, you agree with me that the input type for this will be text because it's expecting the item, then placeholder. Placeholder will be enter the item name. Okay, so we can end it that way for now. The next one, we also have another input. Type. This time around, you agree with me that the type will be number. Even the type for this third one will be number. So the type will be number, and the placeholder will be item quantity. Enter the item quantity. All right. So next one, we are talking about the item price. So the inputs also. Type is going to be number, and the placeholder will be enter the item price, and we can have it closed. All right. So, all right. Let's go to the stuff. You can see that we are it's making sense, even though it's not well styled. So we are coming back to that. So the next thing is we have the add item, we have the remove and the rest. So how do we implement that? Let's add the remove. I think the remove is directly attached to each form, each line. So, and the remove, it comes in form of a button. So let's do button. And we have the add item. All right. Yeah, this, I mean, okay, that should be remove item, I guess. So it's not supposed to be add item. That will be remove. Yeah, because the add will be out of the form here, because the add does not have direct attachments to each of these items. So we have the remove, and at the end of the day, so over here too, we need to put all the form inside of a div so that we can style, so that we can style it, normally. So and so let's go to this. Let's create a div also for this. And when you create the div, the div is going to go around that input. So let's go and check. So we have the remove attached. So, but there's something we need to understand, and it is the fact that this form this form can be removed, can be added. You can see when you add, you can see that it. So there's a logic behind this that we need to build alongside with it. So that's why we are not going to, that's why we're going to wrap this around the logic. So now, so it's getting a bit heated, but it's something that we should understand. So in JavaScript, we have something we call map. And I'm not sure, have you heard about map before? If you heard about map, let me know. Let me see you send it up, thumbs up. A map, the map method. This, have you heard about map? Yeah, map. Oh no, okay. So you use map to you use the map method to display. You can use it to display. You can use it for a lot of things. You can use it to display array items. You understand? You can use it to, to generate different array from the current array, as it were. But I'm going to explain to us. Let's continue with what we are doing. So because this particular div is going to be like reusable, it can be deleted, it can be duplicated, so we need to wrap it around a map so that when we add something new to that array, when we add something new like this, it's going to display it inside of the map. You understand? To display it inside of the map. So that's why we need to wrap this inside of the map. So, but first thing we want to do is let's go to our use state. Let's go to use state. We want to use our state, and we want to ensure that the items that will be typed into it are saved inside of the state so that we don't lose the item easily. So how do we go about that? We'll say const. If you remember, we have this. So the initial number of items will be items, and you use this set items to actually set the new item. So when there is an increment on this, it's going to set the new item into the array so that the display here will be automatic. You don't need to reload the page. So let me just go ahead and do this. So you say equals to use state, and this use state will have empty array. So when I say empty array, it means that we're only displaying the first one. We're only displaying the first form, which shows the name, and the name is empty, right? These are the initial values. The name is empty. The next one is the quantity. Quantity, which is also 0. They are initial values. And we also have the price. The price, which is also 0. Now, let me just increase this a bit. So what we have done here is that we have created initial value for the form, initial values for the form. So we have the name, we have the quantity, and we have the price. So it is when we actually add to that item, that's when we now have to set the item to increase the number of items we have here. We only have one here, but as time goes on, we'll be having more than one. Okay, so let's go back to our form. So over here, we have displayed this manually, but I want us to display it based on the items available here. So how do we go about that? Let's go back to our item. Remember, I mentioned that you can use map to display a list of items. So that is what we want to use now. So let's say that we want to display all these things with conditions. Now, let me remove this, Control X. You can see that we don't have it anymore. So what we want to do now is we want to create a map to display the the initial form conditionally. So how do we go about that? We are going to iterate on items. So how do you use map? This is exactly how you use map. You say dot map, and you open the brackets, and you put item inside of it. What you are trying to do here is you are trying to reach the item inside of items so that you'll be able to display them one after the other. So, and the index here, what is meant for is that if we are deleting one item, each item here has an index. So if you are removing one, if I click on this remove, it will not remove another one. So if I click on this remove now, you can see that all these are intact. If I click on this remove, you can see that this other one is intact. And if I click on automatically, you can even see that the state has helped us to remove those other ones from the invoice. That is a benefit of using React and with the use state. So let's try to iterate around the items that we have here so that we can have a kind of logical, deletion of the items and logical addition of those forms. All right, how do we achieve that? So after the index, which makes everything unique, so we want to do an arrow. Yeah, there are some fundamentals we need to know, and I can only try to explain it to us, here. And by the time you build on it, you'll be sure of how to actually use it. So here we want to display each of these items. Okay, now in most cases you use the square brackets, and inside of you use the normal bracket. Inside of normal bracket, how do we want to display each item? We want to create a div. So I like to complete the div while before, because I might forget, and this might lead to some other things. Then you drop all those things inside of it. So what did I do now? I created a div, and I dropped the what I copied the other time. I dropped it and pasted it inside of this. And let's save it and let's see what happens. So can you see now that we have all of this here? We have all of them here intact. So we have not really done anything so much. All we just did is that this item that we have kept inside of states, that the default value for name is empty, the default value for quantity is empty, and it is 0, and default value for price is also 0. So most time default values are like null, or there is nothing in them. The question now is, how do we get the values? How do we get the values in this particular? I hope we are together. Are we all together? All right. Yeah, thank you very much. So how do we get the value in each of those items? We still need to do something. We only set the items here. We need to also put the item in the state. And how do we go about that? Just as we did the items, we say const item, and this will be what? Sets. It's always set something, set items, and so we have items, and the one we did initially was this, and also I think I'm missing something. We need to add a TypeScript. Remember, we need to type all of the variables we are using. So let's start with that. Let's create a type for the item. So let's say interface. How do you create a type? Interface. Use the interface and you call it item. So what you are saying is that for each item, for name, is expecting a what? A string. Sorry. For name is expecting a string. And if anybody types in something that is different from string, it's not going to take it. For quantity, is expecting a number. Now, if somebody makes a mistake here and types a text into this, you know it's going to affect the calculation. So that's why we have to use TypeScript to enforce that it should expect a number. And the price also, we have a number. So we've been able to, yeah, we're going to have error. So we will attach this item to the real item as it were. So also, I want us, I'll still create another, I'll need to add another, I'll still need to add another type here as time goes on. So let's quickly move. Now that we have declared our items, the quantity and rest, so let's go back to the form. Over here, normally in HTML, we always have like something like name, so that we're able to capture the value of the company name. We have address, name equals to address to capture the value of that particular stuff, that particular company, company address. So, but in React, it is a bit different. In this React currently now, we use value. So let's add a value. And what is going to be the value? The value will be company name. Company name. So we are more or less doing the same thing, but this time around is not name, it's called value. So, and the reason why we have to use value is because when this company name changes, the state will update automatically. So, and you also expect that when we have a value here also, it's going to be what? Company, that should be company address, right? Company address. Yeah. So we are already getting there. So, and we need to also pass something we call on change. So these are just fundamental things in React form. On change, because when it changes, what do we want to trigger? We want to be able to capture the changing events. In JavaScript, if you come from JavaScript, you understand what event is all about. When you click on something, right click is an event. When you left click is an event. When you hover a mouse on something is an event. Now, what we want to do now is that when there is a change in the form, what should happen? Then you have to set the company name into what? Into the new name. But the question is, have we actually created the state for the company name? No. So for us to be able to set the company name to a new name, we have to create a state for the company name and the company address. So let's go ahead and create a const company name, which will be set company name. Remember, I mentioned that the set actually is a function that will enforce the new name. So set company name will be useState. And now, because we're going to reckon with a null value or an empty value. So the useState will be what? Will have nothing in it, because we are not expecting anything in the form. So now remember that we are using TypeScript and we need to define what is the type that we're expecting for company name. We need to define it here. And you know that what we are expecting for company name is a string. Just open the Angular bracket and type in what? String, and close the bracket. Then you are done. You are done. You have specified that, okay, what you're expecting is a string. Now, we do the same thing for company address. Company address, say set company address, and it's going to be equal to useState. Now, of course, we are expecting it to be string also, and we are expecting it to be empty as the first value. Now we're getting there, no, step by step. Now, the other time, remember that we created the items and we set the items to, and the item is having the Okay, we have the name, quantity, and price. So are we actually capturing the name, quantity, and price, or description, quantity, and price? So let's check. So over here, we have the item description, we have the quantity here, and we have the price here. So let's not deviate from what we actually should capture. So instead of name here, please make it quantity. All right, quantity. Have I spelled it correctly? Quantity. Okay. So we have no, I mean description, sorry. So we have description, we have the quantity, and we have what? We have the price. That's for the set item. And remember, this has been okay. Let's check the over here we made a mistake too. So this is supposed to be description too. So more like an item description. So since we have declared the TypeScript here, so the next thing we want to do is, let's come back here. So the next thing we want to do is use that items inside of the map. Use that item inside of the map. So let me remove this. Excuse me. So, and also, we've already created the TypeScript for the item here. So all we need to do is, instead of creating strings, number, and all this stuff, all we need to do is just come here and attach that particular TypeScript, that interface that we have created. And since we created items, so all we need to do is just add item to it and add this as a form of saying that this is an array of objects. Items has just more than one, is expected to be having more than one element inside of it. So item is actually array. Items is an array of item. So items is an array of all of these items. So all these are objects. These are objects, and when you combine them together, they are items. They are array of items. So that's why we have it here, item and the likes. I hope we are getting it. If you are still with me, let me see a yes. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. We are trying to absorb a lot, but it's very important that you understand why we are doing something and why we are not doing something. So let's go back to over here. We still have this error. Don't worry, this error is going to leave very soon. All right, let's go back to our to the form. Go back to the form here. So over here, okay, this is the company name and the rest. So over here, we are talking about effecting the change. There's an event. Anytime you type in something here, when you type in something here, type in 100, that's an event on change. And when it is changing, what do we expect? We want the function here to be activated. We want the function that sets the changes to be activated. So that's why over here, we now say on change, we do what? Set items. You have to set that item to, is it even item? No, it's company. Sorry, I'm mixing it up. Yeah, set company name to the new, we have to set company to the new name. So we say set company name. So we are setting the company name to the new name, which is event.target.value. All right. So, there's an event here that's taking place. We now say, okay, whatever we type inside of this as the company name should be affected immediately using the set company name function and to the value of that particular event, which you can get from e.target.value. So that's the way it works here in React. And the same thing we're going to do for this. Let's do on change. So when the company address changes, what we need to do is create an function, with the event as a parameter. The arrow function will now call the function that sets the company address. It will now set it to the new value of that particular, the new value type, target.value. So it set this to the new value that has been entered inside of the company address. So it's as simple as that. Okay, so now we are here to go into the CSS. Okay, so now how do we duplicate this? And that's the next thing, right? So, but while we do that, I think we should be on the same pace here in terms of changing of states. I want to request probably an additional 20 to 30 minutes so that we can, because we are supposed to finish in another 6 minutes. I hope I have the support of the admin. Okay, so we want to also add some other properties to this input. And what are the properties we are adding? We just as usual, we want to add the placeholder is there. We want to add the value, and on change, what does it change to? All right. So currently, if I type in anything here, it's actually changing. This is not changing. This is not changing. Yeah, all of these things will be affected now. So let's come here and say, what is our value? And remember, we are tracking. What are we tracking here? We are tracking the item description. We are tracking the item description. So and when you come back here, you can see that an item is like is an object. So inside of the item we have the description. Inside of the item we have the quantity, and inside of the item we have the price. So if we are trying to reach the default value of that particular description, is going to be item.description. Because we want to reach the default value, which is a null, which is an empty stuff. That's the default value. And when you're not typing something new, that means something is going to what? It's going to change. Then we are going to use the onChange. Now for the onChange here, the other time we made use of a straight function. We said, okay, there's going to be an event and there's going to be an arrow function. And inside of the arrow function, we're going to have the set function and the value you type into it. But we cannot have it that way here. And the reason is because here we only have one form. We only have a form. And when you type inside of it, that's all. Type inside of it, that's all. But here we can add another form. We can add another form. We can have like 4 or 5 items that we want to enter. So it has to be, we have to use a function that is dynamic to handle the setting of the values of those items, the description, the item quantity, the item price. We need to use a reusable form or function so that at the end of the day we have everything intact, and we won't by the time we are making changes to this, it will not be reflecting on this. That is why this time around we are not going to set it straight away. We are going to call a function that will handle the item handle the change in the item. So just handle change item, and it's a function. So what's the function? What does it need? It needs the index, because if you don't send the index, there could be issues. This is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2. If you don't send that, okay, you are removing index 2 or you are changing an item on index 2, then if you remove, it might remove another one. So that's why we are passing the index for that particular item here, because we are iterating. This map is iterating over each of the form. So we are going to pass the index. What else are we passing? We are going to also pass the quantity. No, not the quantity. We are going to pass the description, because this is, so this description is the new value we have typed inside of here. So the new value that we want it to be affected here, that's the description. Of course, and what value will it be? That will be it.target.value. So that's all. That's what we are passing. But you have this handle item change is underlined because we have not created that function. So let's go ahead and create the function, since we are going to be reusing this function inside of other inputs, especially the form that we're going to be deleting or adding automatically. So I hope it's not getting too complicated. So let me have a yes if we can move on. All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So let's create the handle change item function and enjoy the reusability feature of React. So say const handle change item equals to, of course, you know, it's going to be an arrow function. You know, this is an arrow function. And so what does handle change item do? We need to just get it very clearly so that we are not confused. Yeah, you know, every function will have a parameter. Yeah, you want to probably run a multiple Pythagoras theorem, you are going to have a parameter, or the parameter A, B, and C. You want to run an area of a circle, you need a pi r squared, you need the radius to pass as a parameter. You know, pi is a constant, it will also be passed also. So remember, we passed how many things here? We passed two things. We passed the index, and we passed the field name, which is the description, and we pass the value that has been typed inside of it. So we are going to take all those values now inside of this argument, this argument bracket. So the first one is I want to get the index, which is expected to be a number, right? The index is expected to be number. Remember, in JavaScript, we start with index 0, followed by 1, followed by 2, and we have more, we have 3, and the rest. We also are expecting to have a field. Remember that the field name is description. So, and the reason why we are using this change item is because we want to be able to use this handle change item on other forms too. We want to be able to use it on other forms. So the handle change item function should be able to know where is this change coming from, what field is it coming from, and what value is it bringing. So we need to also type it. So when we have this number, we are trying to apply TypeScript so that when the wrong format is coming, like an index should be number, if it's coming as string, there's a problem. Then the field also, we need to type it. So key of, say key of item. Please don't cram this, just understand it. Once you understand it and you go over the video again, you will have a deeper understanding. We also have the value, and the value is going to be string. Yeah, the value is going to be string because we are expecting a string as a value, because item description comes with a string. And the reason why we use the key of item here is because we already described the item here. So the field, which is the description, is a key of this item, which is a string. So the value also is a string. So how do we want to make use of all those parameters or input parameters? So the way we go about it, yeah, there are suggestions here already. So the way we go about it is we want to say, okay, we now want to have a new item. We want to update we want to update the array. So we say new items. I'll explain this to you clearly. So the new items will be equal to items dot map. And I explained that the map is used to list each item. When we have an array, I want to enter into the array one after the other, enter into the items one after the other. We make use of the item dot, we'll make use of map. So it's an array function. So items is already an array. So, and the map is working with an array. So, and when you open it this way, you say item, because you are entering, you want to access each item inside of the items array. And you also want to have the index. This time around, we represent it as I. So this is the normal way it's you represent your the argument inside of the map. So the other time, remember, we also did something like this, item and index. But this time around, we say, okay, let's use I instead of the full index. So what do we want to do? We want to make changes where we want to make changes at the exact index position, so that when we make changes here, it doesn't go here. It doesn't change the state and update this. So we need to now say, okay, what is coming? What position are we looking at? The position is what? I, which represents the index position. So if we are making changes here, the I here will be what? 0. The I here will be 0. If we are making changes here, the I here will be 1. So the reason for this function is that we want to say, okay, you are making changes. So what line of the form are we making changes? That's number 1. Then number 2, what particular item are we changing? Is it the description or the item quantity or the price? So the first one now is that we are making changes on a particular item or element, which is the first form. Now, let's now see how we can make changes on. So where that is the index. So where the I is the index. So there's what we called in JavaScript, that what we call ES6. ES6 allows us to, maximize the power of JavaScript in making things easier. You understand? In this way now, we are using the conditional operation. I think they call it ternary. That means if this index is equal to the index, if this is true, that means if the index coming is equal to an index in the array. So if an index that is coming is 0, we want to check if that index coming from the form is available inside the items array. So if it is true, we do a spread operation. I hope we are all together. So if you have any concerns, please, can you post it? All right. Okay, that's great. Don't worry, all the components of this, they're intertwined. We have all these arrays. They are basically JavaScript, related. So the assumption is that we have an intermediate idea of how JavaScript works. So that's why, but sometimes I need to just talk about it. So we have a spread operation here. What we are doing here is we want to spread the item. What we are doing here is that we want to say, okay, over here this is where we have the 0 element. This is the object we have in the 0 position, the 0 index position. So let's get everything inside of this. Let's get the description. Let's get the item, the item quantity or the item price, and let's get the item quantity. So that is what we are doing here by using the spread item. But remember that what we want to do here is we want to make changes to the description. So you will see how we're going to achieve that. Okay, the first thing is that, okay, let's get all the items inside of this position first. Then let's now make changes to the particular one that we are working on. So when we come here, we say, does the index exist? It says yes. The next thing is that let me get every item, every property inside of that index, the description, the item quantity, the item price. That is why we use this spread operation. So the next thing is that I want to change a particular field. We'll now say field and the what and value. Now let me explain this. Like I said, this is like a reusable function. This field can be description. The field can be quantity. The field can be price. We want to use one stone to kill many birds. That's why we send it as field. We send it as field. But here, if you send description, it's going to what? It's going to make changes to the description field. If you send the price, it's going to make changes to the price. If you send the quantity, it's going to make changes to the quantity. And remember, you are sending a value. So it will say, okay, you are sending description, what's the value? So is the value. You are sending the price, what's the value? This is the value. You are sending the quantity, what's the value? So here is like a dynamic parameter or variable that fetches the particular item that is coming, that fetches particular property that is coming from your form. So from the form now, any of the field that is coming, add, update it with the value for this particular index. So that's what we have there. So we now have the field will be equal to the value. But there is something we need to know. We need to also put that in a condition. We need to put that in a condition. And what condition is that? We need to know that if field is equal to quantity, all right, or field is equal to price, sorry, or field is equal to price, okay? Now, so when we have it this way, that means you want to say if the field is equal to, sorry, this quantity, if the field is equal to quantity or the field is equal to price, use number. Use the TypeScript. Use the type number of that value. And I will explain this. Sorry, I need to, don't know why there is a, so use the number, else you use the value. Of course, else you use the value. So let me explain this. This is also part of reusability. So what we are doing here is that we are saying that if the item, if what you are changing is quantity, remember that the type that is expected for that value is a number. If it is not a number, then throw an error. Another thing is, if what you are filling up here is the price, still use a number because this represents true. If it is true, then use what? Use number. But if it is not true, we already said value here is string, then use value. The problem is if we don't do it this way, it will apply string to every property. And we don't want it to happen that way. So that's why we said, okay, for quantity and price, we're expecting number. But if it is not quantity and price, then use the default value type that has been pronounced here. All right. So now this is a condition. They said if the element that we want to update, if the field or the element that we are updating is existing, then do all of these things. But what if it is not existing? What if we have just 0 index, 1 index, 2 index, and by the time we now fill the form, it's sending index 3. And index 3 is not available in the array, then nothing will be done. That's why we say if not, then just put the item. Just display the item. So meaning that nothing will be done. Now let's now go to exact thing we actually want to do. And what do we want to do? We want to set the items to a new item. We now say set items to the new items. Now, and also we have to calculate the total amount, but let's not do the total amount now. So let's go back to this set item. Where does this set item come from? Remember, it comes from here. And we want to, what we are trying to do is that unlike this, that we have to create one by one. We created this as company name. We created it as company address. But we don't want to have so many codes running. We don't want to create function for each of them. We want it to be dynamic. That's why we now say, okay, if we are making changes at all, let it be based on the set items. So that in the set items, we'll be able to reach the description directly and change, read the quantity directly and change, and read the price directly and change, regardless of the index that is coming. So that's why we now come here and say, okay, you have to set items to what? The new items. And remember, we have the new items here. So what this means is that the new item would be addition of the current item. That's why we have the spread operation and the new changes we are making. So this is the current item and the new changes. So what it means is that if you are making changes to the description here, maybe you are changing it to LG TV, what it means is that it will spread these two, these remaining indexes 1 and indexes 2 will be here, and we now make change alone to this what? To this index 0, and now set it as a new array. So with this, we now have a new array that has a new value for our property in that particular index. So let's see if our stuff, okay, the error is gone. The error is gone. So let's continue. Let's continue. Now, we need to create another function. And that function is, we need it to be able to add more forms into this, because here we can add as much forms as possible. So let's create that function. How do we create that function? Let's create a button called add item under the form. So let's go back to our form, and let's remember we need to update this. So let's quickly update that first before we go to so over here we need to make use of the dynamic function we have created to update. So we have the type, we have the placeholder, then we need to have the value. Remember, the value will still be item dots. Now let's check here. So item has description, quantity, and price. So this time around is going to be item dot quantity, and here we have value, and this will be item dot price. All right. Now we need to say, okay, once there's a change, what happens? You say on change, and this time around I said we're going to call the on change event. We have an arrow function. This time around we're going to call a function, the same function we called here, That's the undo change item, which we are reusing. So undo change item. Remember, undo change item will have some parameters it's sending. Over here, it's sending the index, the description, and the value that actually changed. So over here, it won't change. It won't be different. So over here, it's going to be sending the this time around, that should be the quantity. No, it's not going to start with quantity. We are going to send the index first before the quantity. Index first. So after the index, we'll send what fields, what property are we changing? That's quantity. And what value are we changing it to? Remember, it's event target dot value. So whatever is there, that's what we are changing it to. So we do the same thing for this. We have on change. When the value changes, we have the arrow function that calls. Okay, inside of it, we're going to have the events, the arrow function that calls the undo change item. And over here, we are sending the index. And what are we actually changing here? We are changing the price. And where are we getting the value from? From the event target, not value. All right. So we've been able to update this. So with just one function, we'll be able to make all of these changes. And something changed now. We can see from here, we can see that we have enter item name. We can see 0 here and 0 here. These are actually reflected what we have here in terms of the initial values of the items. Here we have the description empty, we have the quantity 0, and we have the price 0. So it's showing that if we make changes, it will actually reflect. So, but let's just give it, let's continue to build. Let's continue to build. Now, I think the first thing we want to do is to create a function that will add so that we can keep adding. And so after that, we'll now create a function that removes. So don't worry, please don't be weary. We are going to get it done. So let's go create a button under the form, and we call that button add item. Okay, so that's this button. So add item. So that add item is supposed to create additional forms, form horizontally. So when you add item, when you click on add item, what do you actually want? You want something to happen. So the type is, we already know that the type is going to be button. Now, on click, this time around, we are using on click. We are not using on change. If we are working on the input, we are using on change. But if we are working on the button, we use on click. So for the on click now, we need to call a function to do something. So what kind of function are we calling? Let's just create a let's call it undo add item function. So that function will undo add item. So it's called undo add item. So it's underlined here because that function has not been created. And the reason why we are not making it look this way, remember, we have this undo change item, we created all this index. The reason is because we don't need index to add new form. We can add new form. The only thing that when we add new form is going to increase the index. Like we have 0, 1, 2, 3. We had another one, it's going to be 4. So we don't need to make it complicated. It's only doing one thing. So that's why we can easily call the function as it is, and we don't need an arrow function inside of it. And it's not based on the event. The only event is based on is on click, not on change of the parameters here. So that's why we are not going through all the stress of, now we are not actually reusing it, unlike the undo change item. So let's go ahead and create the undo add item function. So we say const undo add item, and it's going to be equal to arrow function, and we have it this way. So what are we expected to do? We want to create another form. And this time around, we have to use the set item. Just like we did here, we use the set item, to the new item. And the new item is the new array formed after the quantity or the price or the description has been changed. So this time around, we want to create a new element. We want to add a new element. So how do we go about adding a new element? It's very simple. First thing we want to do is parameters. No, we need an index. If we don't add an index, then it's not going to make sense because everything is going to be upside down. So we need an index, and we need to create const, the way we created it the other time, new items. So const new items. What is going to be in const new items? Const new items will be another. We are trying to create a new array. And instead of using new items, if we use new items, rather, it's not going to solve our problem. All we want to do is to spread the current elements. Like we have 4 elements here. Spread the current element and add an additional element. What we did here is we spread the current element and made modification of a particular element using the index. But what we want to do here is that we want to spread out the current elements, and we add a new element. So in that case, we are not going to use new items. We are going to make use of set items. And set items will be an array. And what do we have in the array? We have, number one, we have to spread the items available. You understand? That means that we want to say, okay, the previous items, we are not touching them, but we are getting them. Maybe there are 4, we are getting them. We are now adding a new one. So how do we add a new one? Just create description. And the description, of course, will be empty. And the quantity as it is, the quantity will be 0. And the price will be 0. Okay? So what we are doing here is that we are saying if there is nothing we are changing, we are creating, if we are not adding any item, the default or the status quo remains. Please, if you are with me, send a thumbs up. We are almost getting to the end of it. Okay, thank you very much. So we are adding another form, and these are the things that are expected, the default. Because let me remove this. Let me remove this now. If I click on add item, you see that we have 1. Probably I've made changes somewhere. That's why we have 1. So I need to confirm why this is showing as 1. Where do we have 1? Where do we have 1 for quantity? We have 1. I think we'll resolve that. We'll resolve that. So let's complete this handle item. So for the handle item, and the question is, do we even need to pass an index? I don't think so, because we are not even sending index from here. This handle item, we never send index. Even here, we send index. That's why we pass the index. So we don't want to add code the index. We don't want to preempt, because if we add code it, then it's going to disrupt a whole lot of things. If it is 3, then the new index will be 4. If the last index was 3, the new index will be 4. So we don't need to add code. So I have to remove that from the parameter. So I've done that. So let's now save this. So what this means is that if I click on the add button, if I click on the add item, it's going to trigger this add undo add item. And when it triggers it undo add item, it's going to, retain the previous items and add a new item. So let's try it and see if it's going to work or not. So if I click on this add item, you can see that it's displaying the previous item and adding a new one. So if I keep clicking and clicking, it's the same thing. But the only thing is that this will be index 0, this will be index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4. If I keep adding, it's going to also be that way. So you can see that our function is working perfectly. So let's move to the remove function. Now, when I click on remove, the whole thing left. All right. So I think we need to create a functionality for remove. So let's see, have we even created remove? No, we have not handled the remove item. So let's see what is in remove. So the remove is having nothing. So let's see, what do we do to ensure that when we click on remove, it's removing the particular form for the index. It's not removing everything. You can see from here, it's removing everything. Click on remove, it will remove and retain only one. And the reason why it's retaining only one is because we have already pre-programmed it that the default, this is default, it must show all the time. That's why it's not taking that away. So let's now work on the remove. Of course, we know that the type is a button. Sorry, the type is button. Now, this time around, button event is more of on, is it on change? Is more of on change. Remember, we mentioned we used on change for adding item. So we also use the on change for removing the item. So the question is this: when you want to remove, oh, I'm so sorry, it's on click. I mixed it up. Maybe I need a bottle of water. Please give me 30 seconds. Let me get water. Please, 30 seconds. Okay. Thank you. If you are still with me, please send yes. Send yes if you are still with me. Yeah. So my joy is that individually, you will come up with your invoice app at the end of the day and host it. You can even host on Vercel. It's free. So you can host it and ask people to use your invoice app to generate invoice. That is my job. And like I said, it's not, you don't need to even spend a dime, because Vercel will give you opportunity to build your React app and host it, and you have a domain name, attached to it, probably a subdomain. So let's go ahead. I think I need that water because I was already just posting on click and on change. So just for a reminder, on change is used with inputs, because when you type 345 and you change it to 456, those items are changing. When you type in 233, those items are changing. So that is where we use on change. On click is for button. So I'm sorry I mixed it up the other time. So now this time around, we want to undo the remove item. We have undo the add item. So we'll use the same process, undo remove item. Okay, now this is showing that the undo remove item function has not been created. So that's why we have this, and that's fine because it helps our development, our code base to, it actually connects us with our code base and be sure that, okay, this is the next thing we have to do. So the undo remove item, we have to create that function so that anytime we click on the const undo remove item is a function with an, okay, it's an arrow function. All right, so we have it. Now, this time around, what are we doing? We are not adding item. We are not editing the properties value in each item. we are deleting, we are removing the item. And in JavaScript, for some of us that have an idea of the array functions, there's something called filter. Filter means that when you use filter, you are actually removing a particular element from an array. And that's actually what we are doing here. When you click on this, remove, you have filtered the old items and you remove that particular element with that index. So that is why it's very important that we keep the index, so that if I click on 1, it doesn't delete. If I click on the index of 2, it doesn't delete the index of 0. So we have to apply filter to the array. So that's what we are going to do now. I'm going to take us through it step by step. It's not difficult at all. All right. So for us to undo the remove item, like I said, we have to call again the new items. And the reason why we are using the new items is because we are going to generate new items by filtering the current item. So the current item state is items, and the function we are adding is filter. And just like map, we use a filter. In the filter, we get the item and the index. Now, sometimes we can represent index as I, doesn't matter. We can also use it as index. But the reason why I have to use I is because from the form, I'm going to receive index as a parameter, as an argument. And it must not carry the same name as the index that we're trying to iterate inside of. So that's why I don't want to use index here. I want to use just I. I hope we are getting it. So, and over here, we don't really need item. And the reason is because we are removing an item. And if we are to remove an item, we don't even need to know we don't even need to know the description. Because if we know the description and the description are the same, then it's going to delete everything that has the same description. But there's something we are very sure of, that is that the index can never be the same. Just like our fingerprint, it can be the same. So if we delete using the index, we are sure that we are deleting the right item in the items array. So we have it as underscore, meaning that we don't really need the item. And we have the index represented as I. And like I said, we are going to receive index, which is going to be a number from the form. So we are going back to the form, but let's quickly finish up with this. So just like map, we are having this. So we are deleting where we are filtering. So there's something we need to understand when we are using filtering. For those who come from the JavaScript environment, you will understand better. So when you say filter in JavaScript, when you use filter, you're actually retaining the ones you want. That's how you use filter. Filter means that retain the one I want. Retain the one that satisfies the condition. Let's look at the condition we give here. Let's say somebody we want to remove index 0. We are now saying that filter where I is not equal to index 0. What this means is that you are retaining only the elements whose index is not equal to 0. If you understand what I just said, please send a yes or a thumbs up. Or you want me to explain again? But this is very key. This is very, very key. So please send a yes, or do I have to explain again? So let me just go over it once again. When you are using filter with an array, you will only give the condition. Okay, I got you, Leon. So when you are using filter with an array, you are only retaining the items with this condition. So you are not deleting the item with this condition. So just remember that JavaScript array filter gives a condition of the element you must retain. So every element that do not fall within this, they are the ones that will be deleted. So for example, I want to delete the index 0 here. I have sent it as a parameter here that delete index 0. So when I use here, of course, as delete index 0, when I use filter, what I'll now say is that filter only those that are not index 0, only the indexes that are not equal to index 0, retain them. But if the index is equal to index 0 coming, delete. So, most times when we say filter, people think filter, you delete. People think of delete as filter. Yes, when you filter, you're actually removing, separating some things. But when you use filter with JavaScript, what the condition you are giving it here is that delete only the index that is coming. Leave the rest. So if the index that is coming is equal to index, delete it. But if the index that we're iterating on is not equal to the index that is coming, retain it. That's all. I want to believe that you understand what I'm trying to say now. So in that case, we have now created a new item. And for us to ensure that the new item is set as the new array item, we need to do a set item. Set item will now be equal to what? The new items. So what we are doing is that this new item is a constant that handles this filter. So after you have filtered the index that we are sending, then the new values or the new array that are remaining, set it as items. So when you set it at items, what it means is that everything here will change. So the one you have removed will go. It's as simple as that. So that is why useState is very, very powerful. Leon, are you satisfied? Oh, thank you. All right. So what else? What do we want to do now? When you click on add item, and you delete, remove, it's not working. It won't work because we have not sent the right thing to it. So how do we undo that? Let's go to our remove. Now on the remove, we are supposed to pass the index, right? But we never pass the index. So what we expect is that for this undo remove item, let's pass the what? Index. And yeah. Now, for the undo remove item, we are going to have an arrow function inside of it. Just like we have in this undo change item. Now, let me remind us, the add item function has nothing to do with the index. That's why we call it straight away. When you add, it has nothing to do with the index. But the undo remove item has something to do with index. And if you have to pass a parameter, if you have to pass an argument to a function, you must make it an arrow function. Let me repeat that. The difference between this and this is because undo add item does not need to pass a parameter or an argument. But undo remove item, because we want to be sure of which of these elements are we removing, we need to make it an arrow function and pass the index, just like the unchanged functions that we have here. Because we have to pass the index and the price and the property and the value, we need to what? Make it an arrow function. And in this case, we need to get the value from the event. So I hope that is clear. So I'll move on. So I have passed the index to undo remove item. After passing the index to it, then let's go back and see that everything is fine. So let me explain this again. You have the index that will be sent. Let's say the index is 0. And once it's sent, we have the filter function that remove everything that looks like index 0, remove it from the item array. And whatever remains, use it to update the items. So let's try and see now. Have I saved? let's click on remove. Can you see that it's working perfectly well? Let me remove this. You can see that it's working. TV, freezer, toner. Then we're like, okay, this is 20 or 19 or thereabouts. So we now say, okay, let's remove freezer. Click on remove freezer. You can see that only freezer is removed because the index is working perfectly well. So I hope we all understand. So let me move to the remaining part of it so that we can now create time to style. All right. If you are with me, send a thumbs up. So we'll quickly work on the total item. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we want to be able to ensure that when we have a TV that is $100, and I think the quantity comes before price. Let's confirm. And quantity comes before price. So let's say we have 10 TVs that cost $100 too. That's $1,000. We have toner, 20 toners we bought cost $15. So we want to be able to get the total price for all of them immediately. So in that case, we are going to have another what? We're going to have another state, and we call it total amount. And the reason why we have to use state is because you already know the reason why we have to use state, because when there are changes, the state will also change immediately. So let's create a total amounts, because this will be dynamic. We'll be changing every time we make changes. So we set the total amount to be equal to use state. Now, you know, total amount has to be a number. So with our TypeScript, we say number, right? And the default will be 0. The default will be 0. So that means total will be $0 until we make changes to all of the form. So that's total amount. So let's now have the total amount. And total amount should be directly under the hard item. So let's add the total amount under the hard item. So is it going to be under the button straight away? Yeah. So we're going to create another div for it, another view for it. So let's create a div. And inside of it, let's have H3. This time around, we want to use a lesser stuff. And in we say total equals to $0. So this is hard coded. You can see it's $0. So it's hard coded. We don't want it to be hard coded. We want it to be dynamic. So what we want to first achieve is we want it to pick the value from the initial value. So how do you do that? In JSX, we call we can call the variable. The name of the variable is total amount here. We've created it here, total amount. So, and the initial value is 0. So we don't need to care about the initial value. Once we put on, so we're going to remove this 0. I will say total amount and save. You can see the total amount is 0. So let's be sure. Let's say the total amount default is 10. Let's say 10. Let's see if it's working. You can see it's working perfectly well. But we need to make it 0 since we are here it's supposed to be adding, it's supposed to be an addition of the items that have been added. All right. So what else do we want to do now? What we want to do is that we want to have a function that makes changes to this total amount. And that function will depend on what is entered here and what is entered on the second one and what is entered on the third one. So your guess is as good as mine. The function is going to add all of this. First, it will multiply the quantity and the price, the quantity and the price for the second, the quantity and the price for the third one, and now add the 3. So there is a function in JavaScript. It's called reduce function. Have you heard that function before? Reducer or reduce, a reduce function. Let me know if you've had the reduce before. If it's a no, say no. If it's a yes, say yes. The reduce function. Okay, it's a no. Yeah. So let me just give you an example. Okay, let me do an example here. So I'm going to remove this. So when you have something like this, 2, 4, 7, this is an array of numbers. And you want to add all of the elements, knowing fully whether the elements are numbers. If you have to go through, for some of you that have been attempting code challenge, it's going to go through a lot. You are going to go through a lot of line of codes. First, you want to loop through. You loop through these 2, and you get it. You loop through it, and you get 4. You do 4 plus 2, that's 6. You loop this through the last one, that's 7. You now do 6 plus 7, that's 13. But that is a long process. So JavaScript already has a function for arrays that have numbers called a reduce function that will automatically help you to add all of those things. So that is the reduce function. So let's put it to work and let's see how it works. So we create a function that is that will calculate the total amount of the items that has been used. So now that function, there's something about the function. At every change in these items, in this probably 70 changes 77, that function has to be called because it has to automatically add. If I change this one to 30 now, you can see that it affects. Let's start from here. If I change this to 10, you can see that it has automatically updated the total amount. So what it means is that that function has to be inside of the function that handles these changes so that it will be accurate. So what it means is that the handle change item handles all of these changes. The function that will calculate the total amount has to be inside of the handle change item so that when the items are changing, the total amount will also be calculated, will also change. All right. So now, but first and foremost, let's create the function called calculate total amount. All right. So calculate total amount is an arrow function. Sorry. All right, that we have this. Okay. Now you already have an idea of how to calculate the total amount, and you know there's a reduce function. And what the reduce does is to multiply the total quantity by the item quantity and the item price, and do an addition or summation of everything. You can just say const total will be equal to items dot reduce. Now, the other time we use item dot map, we use item dot filter. This time around, an array function item dot reduce, that's what we want to use. And that function takes two things. It takes the accumulated figure and the item. I will explain that. So we have the ACC and the item. Now, this will be an arrow. This will be an arrow function. So while taking the item, and there's something else we need to do. In the calculate total amount, we need to ensure that the items array is passed as argument. Because what are we adding if we don't have the array that we are trying to add? So we are passing the items as argument. And remember, we need to specify the type. Items is an array of items. So we need to make it very clear that items that we are passing is an array of items that we already declare here, an array of this object, which is which means that we can have many objects in the array. So let's move forward. Let's move very fast. So we have these two parameters, like I mentioned, they're going to be, the parameter that we're going to need. So we have the reduce and accumulation and the item. It can also be sum, but to make it clearer, let's use sum. You understand? Let's use sum so that it will be clearer. So, and we have an arrow function. And what the arrow function does is to do a sum of plus item dot quantity multiplied by item dot price. All right. And we have it as comma 0. And that's the case. So we have a total which will be equal to the items of reduce. And what are we reducing? What are we adding? The sum plus the item. So how does this work? The sum, the default for the sum is has to be 0. So I'll explain it to you now. The default of the sum. So we are trying to add stuffs. We are trying to add, just like we did here. We are trying to add array of, have I deleted it? Oh no. So I did 2, 4, and 6 the other time. So if you want to start adding, you need to have a default value of 0 before you start adding. So that's why we have this sum. That at default, this sum is what? Equal to 0. We'll now have a kind of incrementation. So this reduce is iterating over the item. And when it gets to the first item, it checks out the quantity. So over here we have 100. It brings out the 100. Over here we have price. It brings out the 10, and it multiplies 100 by 10. That's what? 1,000. Now, after multiplying the 100 by 10, that's 1,000. It now adds it to the sum. But because this is the default value of the sum, it adds it to 0. That means the total in the reduce will be what? 1,000. But because it is iterating, it will come back here and say, okay, what is the item quantity here? We have 1. What is the price here? We have 47. We now say 1 multiplied by 47. That's 47. Plus sum. The sum we have now is not 0, it's 1,000. That's from the first element. You now say 1,000 plus 47. So as much elements as we have, it keeps doing the iteration until we'll get to the last element and we have the last sum. If you understand this, please send a thumbs up. Or if you want me to go over it again, let me know. Okay. All right, that's good. So the items are reduced. All it does is that it loops into the item, get the quantity, get the price, multiply both of them, add it to the previous value of sum. So if it's doing that for the first element, adding it to 0, it becomes the current value of sum. Does I iterate over it again to the next second element, does the same thing and increment the sum. So that's what we have there. And so now remember that we have a state for total amount. So once we have a new amount for total amount, the next thing we want to do is to set the total amount to the new amount. So we say set total amount to total. So this means that this new calculation of total will be the total amount. And remember, set state, we immediately make the changes. All right. So let's see if it's working. And I mentioned something the other time. I'm sure some of you will remember. Let's see if this is going to work or not. All right. So let's add. Let me remove this. And for this item name, we have LG TV, smart TV. I like smart TV because I can connect it to the internet. All right. So let's see. We are buying 3 smart TVs, and one smart TV costs 200, right? That should be 600. But this guy is not changing. Why is it not changing? Can somebody tell me why? Why it's not changing? Yeah, I'm waiting. Why is it not changing even after I've made changes here? Why is this not changing? Okay, I'm expecting a response. Solomon, you're typing something. So I mentioned something the other time. So for some of you that will remember what I said, you will have an idea of why this guy is not changing. Okay, waiting for Solomon while we're wrapping up. I'm sure once the functionality is working perfectly, the rest of the styling will not be a problem. So why is it not changing, Solomon? I'm expecting your response. Okay, good. It's not in the undo change item. Thank you. So there's a function that controls this change, which we have mentioned. But if we want this to reflect immediately, we have to call this function inside of the undo change item. Yes, that's why it's not receiving the value. So let's go back to the undo change item and call our function. And what's the name of the function? Calculate total amount. Okay, calculate total amount function. So are we passing anything to the function? So a yes or no? Are we passing the new items into the function? I want a yes or a no. A yes? Leon? Great, great. Say yes. And the reason why we need to pass, you know the reason. And the reason is that the calculate total amount is going to need the items array. It's going to need the items array. And it is with the items array that it will do the calculation. So, and this time around, we are not going to use items. The reason why we're not going to use items is because we already have new items, which is the most recent value of items. So why not just pass the new items into it? And the reason also is because you can see that these new items is being used to update the items. So meaning that these new items is hotcake, it's available. So instead of waiting for it to update the items before using it here, we can use it directly. It's not that if we put items here, it won't work, but it's going to be slow because the new items is going to update the items. Probably it will take 1 second or 2 or thereabout. And after updating the items, that's going to now pass it to this function. So that's why not make use of the new items directly? That's why I decided to use it this way. So now we save. Let's see if it works. So I'm buying 3 LG TV at the rate of $300. Can you see that it has worked? That's $900. Now let's add another item. I want to buy a car, a Toyota car, Toyota Corolla. Or rather, I'm writing an invoice for a company. And I'm buying only one. I'm not too greedy, but I don't have so much money. And I'm buying one at the rate of $1,200. For instance, I know it's not possible. So you can see that we have $1,200 times 1, that's 1,200. 3 times 300, that is 900. So 1,200 plus 900 will give us 2,100. So we can as well add as much as possible. Want to add a lamp. Let's say lamp. You buy a lamp. You buy 20 lamps at the rate of $10. All right. So that's 200. So we see that it updates almost immediately. All right. So I hope we're not tired. We're almost getting to the end of the training. If you are not tired, send a thumbs up. All right, yeah. So there's a saying that the tough, there's something about tough, okay. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. I can't remember that saying. Solomon, you're tired. Louisa, you are lost? No. I'm sure when you listen to this video, when you watch the video again, you won't be lost. I assure you of that. You know, it's quite demanding, but you actually get the, you know, you're tired. Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't know. Admin, what do you think? Admin? The video will help. So I think we should complete it. And by the time you watch the video, it will help. You know, this kind of video, this kind of training, you know, we are giving a lot of time to explain. That's why it looks a bit long. You know, it's you know, we need to explain how it works. So that's why it's taking time. You know, and I'm taking us as intermediate programmers. So that's why I'm not assuming a lot of things. So please let's endure till the end. I think, yeah, the admin will put us through on how you can get the code. Don't you worry. So let's go ahead and continue. Now the next thing we want you to do is you can see here we have a display here. So we want to display what we have. So I think that will not take time. We already have an idea of how map works, right? We have an idea of how map works. So in that case, we are going to have another div. We're going to have another div. It's going to be invoice, or we're going to have another component rather, and the component will list all the items. Component will list all the items. So let's quickly work on that. It's like a table that shows all of those stuffs. So let's have a if you don't mind, I can even add it to, let me add it instead of going to the routing part. Let's add it as a div. We all know how to construct a table in HTML. So you have the table, we have the table head, right? We have a table head and we have a table row too. Yeah, you use a table head if you're trying to separate the column from the items. So inside of it, we have a TD. So let me just quickly run through that. We have a TD. We can have as many TD as possible. Okay, in this case, we are showing just 2. And we're showing just 4, right? So, all right. So because we're using the T head here, we are going to we're going to use it as TH. Yeah, because it's the heading. The heading, the TH. So let's replicate that. And here, so inside of it, we have the description, just like we have here, description, quantity, price, and total. So description, let me just move as fast as I can. Quantity, price, and total. Okay, yeah, all right. So I think we are exhausted and the support has come in. So I think we should have another session for this class to complete the invoice generator project. So yes, so we can pause and continue later. So over to you, Tech. Thank you guys for your enduring spirits, and we'll meet later to complete the project.